Welcome to the Laws and Evils with Laws. We're here today discussing relationships from the spiritual aspect. And people must understand your relationships are spiritual in nature, not necessarily just physical. Every interaction that we do is an energy exchange of us sharing ourselves with somebody else in some way, shape, or form, spoken or unspoken. So we must understand that our relationships in their purest form are spiritual because we are sharing ourselves and we're sharing information with people around us. That's why it's important for us to understand that when we enter into relationships that are romantic, there is something deeper and something much more inviting happening, much more magical that's happening within us when we enter relationships. When you meet that person and you get butterflies in your stomach, that's a simply sign of that love is working in the midst. Remember that love is an energy. It's just not a concept or that's esoteric or imaginable or Hollywood based. It's a real energy. So when love comes upon you, you start to get these butterflies and everything else. And that's the beginning of a process of healing. Because one of the first things that love does, love heals us. So as you're entering into a new realm of a new relationship, you see that person and you fall in love with that person, and you get that number, and then you start to text, and then all of a sudden you go on your first date, you infatuated with that person. It's a feeling of euphoria or drunkenness that overcomes you, and that's for a reason, because love, the feeling of love is being drunk. That's a physical sign of a spiritual issue, a spiritual aspect going on. Love makes you drunk. You feel drunk, your whole being is filled with nothing but goodness. And you begin to feel good, because one of the aspects of love is feeling good. Because love brings joy. So, as this process happens, you start to seemingly go into the backwards issues. You start to fall in love with the person, and you get nervous, and then all these other things happen, like you start to feel like you are like on pins and needles, and all this fighting happens, all these things happen, trying to figure out the relationships work, you want to how they think, you want to think, and that's all part of the process. What's going on that you do not see is that your fears are being dealt with. All the fears about love, all the fears about being loved, and you got to remember that love is automatic, and that these fears don't have a place, and that love is automatic. Remember that you're always going to be loved, and that love is automatic. It's just going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. Love is just going to happen to you. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, love is going to happen. But you've got to allow the process to start and to happen. So as it starts, when you meet your partner or that person, love is just going to happen to you. And as the process going, do not get into cattiness, or do not get into fighting and the miscommunications or the misunderstandings as your relationship is budding. That's something you just don't need. In my book, Love Just Happens, I talk about this. It's for your benefit. Love is coming to lift you up from the place you are to the place you are, to help you to become more of your authentic self. So you've got to allow love to do this. So, as this happens, your fears are being dealt with. Your misconceptions about you and what people said about you are being dealt with, because somebody is authentically sending the most powerful energy to you because they're loving you. So you've got to allow that process, and you've got to allow those things to happen. So as love is happening, your fears are being dealt with. Now, they're not going to go easily, and they're not going to go quiet into the night. They're going to fight. But you've got to have the understanding and the wisdom in your relationship as it goes on. Take it day by day, step by step, and get to know each other. Get to hear each other. listen to each other, communicate. Because as this process is happening, things are going to happen. Learn to spend time with each other. Time is the most precious thing you have and the most valuable thing you have. And you have to understand that's something we must do, is spend time with each other. And as we are spending time with each other, we're getting to know each other. Spiritually, there are things that are happening each time you meet. It's as if you were putting one a chemical in another to change it. That's what happens. Magic happens all around us all the time. Magic happens when we cook. We take ingredients that are one thing and another thing, and we put it and we make it something entirely new. That's magic. And that happens more. And that's so is love. Love is taking two different people from two different places and making them one. Spiritually, that happens. You become one fabric. When you're dating, your hearts become aligned. And so anything that's not like love is being pushed out of your heart. And those are the things you can't see. They're immediately in contact. So you've got to be able to embrace all of that. And so, in conclusion, love will just happen to you. There's nothing you can do about it. It will just happen. And you just have to learn to ride out the wave. This has been your host of Blue Whales and Eagles, Rick Rawls. Thanks for joining me in my podcast.